Here. Alderman Moore. Alderman French. Alderman Vaccaro.
Present.
Alderman Carter. Alderman Green.
Here.
Chairman Conway.
Present.
5 present.
Okay, let's see, a couple of things. By the request of the sponsor, Board Bill number 38 will not be heard today.
Just get Mavis, because I'm here, we're both here all day. But these two,
Okay.
Mavis is off today, she just,
Which one would you like me to do?
266.
Let's go ahead and take up Board Bill number 266. Alderman Vaccaro.
Would you like to speak on any of the bills that are signed here?
He's coming up. What, 266 first, is that what you said?
And, right, but the license collector can talk about both at the same time.
No, just, you're,
No, they're by numbers.
Sorry, I should do
while they're signing up, what,
We'll do okay, let's go ahead and do 265, Alderman, does that make?
and I'm gonna have them explain them, because even though I've read them, they've explained them to me. I still have some confusion, but in a sense, right now, there's a cap. If you don't pay your license fee, it caps at 25% of the fee. So if you're 6, 8, 10, 12 months late, the fee doesn't go up. What they would like to do is make the fee increase by 5% each month that you're late. And both bills do that. One does it for the licensing, and here's where I'm confused, the other one does it for fees, which seemed to me to be the same thing, but they're gonna be better to explain it than me, so. But 265 has to do with fees, and again, both take the 25% cap off and keep it at 5% each month. And it's in order to try to get people to pay their license. So I'm gonna go ahead and let, you wanna come up, because he can do a much better job of explaining it than I
Okay.
can.
We'll do 265 first.
Good morning, 65. Okay. Good morning. This particular piece of legislation that we're proposing prior to now had a, this is late pay, 0680.
Yeah, that's late pay.
Okay,
Take the late filing first. Late filing comes before late pay.
Well, he's got them now, he's got it backwards, so
Well,
it's okay, we'll do
it
it this
doesn't-
one. We're gonna
Okay,
do this
wait,
one.
it doesn't matter, just tell me which bill you'd like to testify first on.
And this is 265, and this is dealing with the late pay. These are situations in which a party has, is required to pay license fees, but has failed to pay on time. In these cases, presently, the statute provides that when they do that and fail to pay within 60 days, the amount shall be payable up to 25% greater than the amount of taxes that's been affixed. So if you owe $200 in taxes, after 60 days, the most that can be assessed to you is going to be 25% above that. And that's where it stops. What the license collector's office is proposing, that this be amended to increase those fees at least begin, the legislation says 5% beyond that late fee of 25%. So we would not be capped at only assessing them at 25%, but each month thereafter, after the 60 days, we still would be able to assess them an additional 5%. And after review of this, we also believe that the 5% is also a nominal amount that we think should also be increased. But at the time of putting the legislation together, we came up with this figure because 5% is also referred to in the other legislation dealing with timely pay. So we felt that it would be consistent to go ahead and assess this at 5% increase rather than the 10 or 15%, which we think would be more appropriate because our view is that this is to serve as a punitive measure for folk who continually refuse to pay on time. And we did not believe, after further reflection, that 5% really addressed that particular issue of trying to encourage people to pay timely. But in essence, the legislation at hand provides for an increase of 5% after the party has failed to pay within 60 days and after this 25% has already been assessed. So it would be an additional 5% added on to that each month thereafter.
The other reason that we think that the fee should be higher than the 5% is when we looked at the Hancock legislation, basically it says that the fine should be commensurate with what it costs you to go after the fine. And so right now we're looking at not only our postage, but also sending out a field representative to go and try to collect the money is way more than 5%, although that's what we're proposing right now. But we're asking that to be amended based on those things that we said. So it's two things. Folks can file, and Dave, you're looking kind of puzzled here, but the thing is that we're looking to take the cap off of the filing fee. You have to file by June 1st. Most people don't. And we have just right here of the, just looking at what we've had, this is just looking at one portion of our licensing, and we have 253 just in one portion, which is like restaurants. 253 that basically pay late, historically, because they have the cap. So they say, we're not worried about breaking the law, as you will. We're not worried about that. To heck with it, we'll just go ahead and pay late, and so, or be fined. And so they know that the fine is just maximum of a 25%. So basically they just flip us off and say, hey, I'll pay the 25% instead of coming on with the obeying the law. So the filing, there's a one bill for filing, which if you file late, there's only a cap on that, or if you pay late, there's only a cap on that. Most people that file late also pay late, and so they know that it's only really, if you're looking at the filing 20% and the payment 25%, they know that at the end, basically we give them like 5 months out, that at the end of 5 months, it takes them that long to pay, they'll only pay the 45% based on late filing and late fee. And so not only are we losing money, but we're also wasting resources and continuing to go after these people for trying to get our money into the office.
Okay,
So, I mean, that kind of basically is what that's about.
all right. At 10% a month, my interest charge to my small business is 120% a year. You know, that's the fee. My question is, so there's no cap. What I run into is small businesses or new people who start or move into the city or don't realize, and what you're saying is there's an unlimited cap here. Usually these people are missing 2 years or 3 years. And then all of a sudden, I'm going to take a $200 license fee and charge them 50%, actually 120% a year. I'm going to charge them for 3 years back almost $1,000. That's not really business friendly, Alderman, when it's small businesses that usually get trapped by this.
Right. But the unfortunate part is there are businesses doing business in the city of St. Louis that refuse to get licenses, such as the group that came in and that building blew up, I guess was in the Central West End or Soulard area. You know, that's just like, unfortunately, even on traffic tickets, sometimes people that can't afford them get them, but you know, things are put in to try to make people comply. And that's what this is about, is trying to get compliance. I don't know, like I said, this was brought to me, and I felt that it seemed to make sense in a way that it was just about compliance. I don't really know what happens if somebody hasn't decided to get a license for 3 years and they finally get caught. I mean, I ran a small business for years and years, and we seem to always remember to get our license. I don't know. I mean,
I know that the license collector, you know, historically has worked with us, you know, on these cases where they catch a small business or whatever, and I know that they've been doing a good job getting people. But, you know, we have to differentiate who we're going after. We do have to make this, we want people to voluntarily pay, we want them to do their earnings tax, but we don't want to punish them for being in business. You know, the penalty is 50%, basic 45% right now if they're late. There are other things that can happen. If you're a restaurant, you'll lose your sales tax, your liquor license, all of those things are on the line if you aren't licensed currently. But to be able to take someone who's got a little dog grooming business out of their home, or someone who's been working out of their mom's house or on South Grand or on Southampton because they didn't do something right, and we catch them 2 years later and we hit them for $1,200.
I understand what you're saying.
I mean, there's no cap in this.
Right, I'm just saying that's what, you know, that, you know, the idea was.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
let me go through the list. Alderwoman Cruzen.
Thank you. How many business licenses does your office issue a year?
About 17,000.
And you made the statement that most people don't pay on time. Is that true? Of those 17,000, 8,500, that would be half, or that would be most, don't pay on time? Is that really true?
Yes, ma'am, it's when you say really true, I can't say that it's really true, but just based on one category of licensing that we do, and we have multiple categories of licensing, just taking that one category, the majority of that one category has not paid. Now, I haven't
So
gone down
200
I haven't gone down each category, but the majority of that one category, license category, has not paid time.
Okay, so I think what you said is there's 253 restaurants that are late. Is that what I heard you say earlier? 253. So are there only 500 restaurants licenses in the city of St. Louis?
I can't give you that exact number, but based on all of our restaurants that we had filed, we looked at them, and from that, 253 were deleted.
Could you get that information to us sort of by category? You know, the number of licenses that are issued, and then how many are actually delinquent, either in filing and or in paying? Because I think what,
Some time for us to get that information, ma'am. Like I said, there are numerous categories, and I can't tell you the category, but I know that it's 4 pages of categories with small lines of licensing. And so it's.
But
gonna
you know
take
that
some time to have somebody dedicated to do that, and our system doesn't do that. But yes, I can get you the information, but I can't give it to you by the end of the week, nor probably by the end of next week.
okay, well, I don't mean to put a undue burden on your office to provide information. So if it's not feasible or reasonable for you to provide it, then that's fine, I withdraw my request. I withdraw my request, that's fine. My question really was, is it accurate that most people don't pay on time? I mean, it just doesn't seem to me like that would be the case. So I believe your office sends one notice where you have to file how many employees you have and therefore how much your fee is, correct? You send one notice for that. You don't send a second notice.
Yes, ma'am, we do. We send a second.
You do?
Yes, ma'am.
So you send a second notice on the filing, and then you send second notices on the only reason I thought that you didn't is because I was late filing one once, and they told me that it was just one notice that got filed, and, you know, I missed it, and so I had to pay a, I don't know, 25% penalty, I think. Is that what it is for not filing on time? Okay, so, I mean, I just had to pay that, so, because it was an oversight, and the office told me that they only mailed one request. So if you pay, what is your process, I guess, for?
My process, since
Right, so the first notice goes out when?
The first notice should go out right at the beginning.
Yeah, I know, at the beginning, but is that, the licenses are due on,
June 1st.
okay, so the first notice goes out April, March? I don't know, when does the first notice go out?
July is what we're trying to do.
No, I mean the notice, if it's due June 1st, you don't send me my first notice in July.
No, ma'am. What I'm saying is that the process that I'm developing, and that's what I talked about. Right now, only one notice goes out.
Okay,
I'm understanding
okay,
your question.
that's what I thought.
But that is not the process.
You're going to do it different, but right now,
And we're in the process of doing it here.
okay, let me go back to the bill. So what you would propose is that anybody who hasn't filed and paid by the 1st of July, their fee would start going up 10% a month indefinitely.
Excuse me.
It's 5% for not filing, it's 5% for not paying, is that right? So 5 plus 5 is 10, so it's 10% a month.
You're late filing and late paying.
Correct. Yeah, so if you're late filing and late paying, your license is gonna go up 10% a month, indefinitely.
That's correct.
Okay, I can't support this bill. I just think this is really onerous, especially when there are currently no processes in place to send more than one notice, to send reminders. I know that you're working towards that, and so maybe once your new processes are in place, I might think about something different here. I don't know that 10% a month is the right number. I don't know that it isn't either, but I might think about it. But right now, with the processes that are in place, I can't support this.
But it's basically the same as any other entity.
There's nobody who charges you 10% a month.
Your utilities actually are continuing to go up. They don't put a cap on. If you're late, they continue to go. That's all we're talking about.
There's a late charge, but it's not 10% a month.
I'm understanding that. I'm talking about the process right now. I'm understanding what you're saying.
Well, but we're not really talking about the process here. What we're talking about here is not the process. We're talking about the actual amount of the fee that you would charge every month if it was late. I mean, that's not talking about the process. That's talking about the amount.
Okay, what I'm talking about is both, ma'am. I'm talking about the process, just like any other bill that you have to pay, there's a late penalty.
Sure.
And there's usually no cap. Same with IRS, same, no
Yeah,
cap.
but even the IRS isn't 10% a month.
I'm understanding, ma'am. What I said, what I'm saying is that I'm talking about the process now. If you disagree with the fees, then we can talk about that.
Well, but what's before us,
Okay, excuse me, everybody,
what's before us to vote on is the
Alderwoman,
fees?
please, everybody give me a break here. Okay. Madam License Collector, why don't you come to the microphone? She's responding, we'll do one person at a time. Thank you.
I have no further questions, thank you.
Okay, did you have something else you'd like to add?
Yes, what I'm saying is that we're asking to take the cap off. That's one thing. Now, the other thing is what's in the legislation is about the 5%. If we can't agree with that, I wouldn't say just scrap everything. Let's come to some sort of agreement. Like the Alderwoman said, she couldn't go with 10%. What can she go with? Right now, the legislation is basically to take the cap off. And what you're talking about, we're all about the small business people. We're helping the small business people. We really are, going through. But the thing is that at some point, if you're breaking the law, no matter if it's a small business, a large business, or whatever, why are we letting people continuing? Right now, what we have in our office is file cabinet after file cabinet, and you can come down and look. I don't know the numbers. I can't get you the numbers. To count the numbers, it takes me one employee away from that just to even go through. But I know that there are file cabinets down there that are people that are up to 5 years that are late. And so we've started going after that, just looking at that, but it takes man and woman power to do that. The same that she talked about, can you give me that? The information that I gave you, most people are late. That's just from one category or licensing that we had. one category. For us to go through every category and count those, it takes time and resources, which I will get that to the alder lady. But the thing is that all we're trying to do is to take the cap off, and the alder people can come work with us to try to find out what the process and the fees would be after that.
Okay. Vice Chairman Williamson.
Thank you. Madam License Collector, when you say categories, can you be a little bit more specific, or do you know, are you speaking of mainly small businesses? You know, for example, if it's Anheuser-Busch, or it could be, you know, a large corporation, I'm sure they're probably not late most of the time. So what do you see, or what have you, since you've been the license collector, have you noticed it's mainly the small businesses that are delinquent majority of the time?
I can't give you that answer, but I can look just on this piece of paper. And what I mean by categories of licensing, I mean car dealerships, I mean auto repairs, I mean shops, those that sell cigarettes, retail, liquor. I mean, it's those categories of licensing.
Okay.
There are over 100 of them.
Right.
Now, I can't tell you the exact amount because I don't have that in my head.
That's
But
fine.
I do have that downstairs where we have the category of licensing, and I can get that, even while we speak, I can call downstairs and ask somebody.
Okay.
As far as looking at it to see if it's small or large businesses, I have not looked at that to see the breakdown if it's small or large businesses. This research was based on only one category of licensing. But in looking at the other categories of licensing, all categories are late. Now, I can't say that the majority, I can't give you a specific figure, but looking at each category, we do have lates.
And I guess you mean, when you say category, you mean the type of
Yes.
business, like, you know, auto sales?
There you go.
Convenience store?
Yes, sir.
Barber shop?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And I know the intent is, the bill has any good intention on it, but my question is on the 5%, and that just runs indefinitely. There's no cutoff, you know what I'm saying? I know you charge the 5% for filing fee, 5% for the late fee, and then 5% for being delinquent each month after that. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. But there's really no cutoff, is what you're saying?
That's
on-
what we're trying to propose now, that the late fees run indefinitely. And I also was listening to the chairperson, and I agree that maybe there should be a line in the sand that we don't go back 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, you know, whatever, that we draw a line in the sand and say from here on out, this is what it will be.
All right, that's all I have. Thank you.
Alderwoman Green.
Just curious, have you done any research or looking into why they're being paid late? You know, if this is a reoccurring issue, is it because there's only been, you know, one form of notice in the past, or what is the reason you think that so many of these businesses are paying late?
I think it has nothing to do with the notices at all. It has nothing to do with the number of notices that you send out. Folks know that they're late. And especially people that have been in business for a long time, they know this like the back of their hand. They know when the filing deadline is. They know when the payment deadline is, no matter how many notices that you send out. And it's a waste of my resources, really, right now, to send out the multiple notices. That's why we didn't implement what I had planned originally, the 30-day, 60-day, 90-day notices, because we looked at the postage. You know, our office is small, our budget is small. The 90%, and this is not just conjecture, 90% of our budget goes to salaries and benefits. The rest of it goes to the managing of the office. And so when we talked about the 30, 60, 90 days sending out the notices, we're like, wait a minute, we're spending too much on postage. We would spend too much on postage. That's why I held back a little bit on implementing sending out multiple notices. So I don't think working in the office every day, looking at the processes, that it has anything to do with the number of notices. I think that that's irrelevant, the number of notices that you send out. People know, they've been in business, they know the rules. Basically, what is happening right now is people thumb their nose at the rule and say, hey, I can only have to pay 45% if I'm 5 months late with filing and payment, so be it, I'll pay that.
Okay. And then, let's see it here, what would be your projected increase in revenue if this were to be implemented?
The increase in revenue,
Right, so if you're having all of these different fines and fees now, what kind of budgetary effect would this have?
To be
and I'm
clear-
not sure that I can answer your question right now here at the podium. I'm looking at some information that we have based on number of employees and based on if they filed late or paid late. That's the information that we have gathered right now. So I can't answer your question exactly right now, Alderwoman.
Okay, thank you. No more questions.
Alderwoman Cruzen.
Collector Thompson, the revenue that your office collects now, 100% of that revenue runs your office. Is that correct, or is that not correct?
No, the revenue that we collect, we only keep 2 to 4% for the commission, and the commission is what runs our office. So it's not 100%. The majority of it goes back to general revenue, and then the various categories like the school board, the museums, different things like that. And so it's not 100%, no ma'am.
Okay. And so the total, what's the, I could look at the budget, but maybe you know this. If you don't, not a big deal. But what is the total amount of license fees that your office collects a year? That's okay. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, I have no further questions.
All right. I'll come back to you. Let's see, a couple of things. I would just speculate to say that if more than half the people are late and the penalty is 50%, then you'd have a 25% increase. That would be one thing. The IRS's penalty for late filing is 5% a month with a cap at 25%. Their penalty for late paying is 0.5% a month on top of the interest charge at a cap of 25%. I know that the collector of revenues caps are all premised and based off of the IRS's caps, just because it's coincidental that everything is at 25%. I do understand the significance, and I know the license collector has historically been sympathetic to our small businesses. But what my suggestion is maybe we do a little bit more detailed analytical review of why they're late, who they're late, and what would be an effective, if I'm paying $200 and that's my license cost, my maximum penalty at 45% is $90, it's $290. That maybe we come up with something that will encourage timely filing and timely paying, but not be particularly onerous. And if we look and study all those categories, then we can go forward. Because the most important thing is, between your office and the collectors, we want people on the payroll. We want them to be happy here in the city. There's always going to be bad people, and then, we're going to put a dragnet out. Let's make sure that it's going to be effective to get compliance. That's what my suggestion is, and I'm more than happy, just because as a CPA over all the years, I've seen my small businesses look at the farm, and I'll get it next April 15th, like what their stuff, Steve, do these things. I was like, well, that was due, 7 months ago. Alderman, and so I'd be more than happy to work on that on a going forward basis. I do know that, they are considering increasing the business license tax coming forward to help pay for, and I don't know when I say they, the mayor, the comptroller, the president of the board, they're working out some things. But I think we need to have something that will, that we're comfortable with, that will increase compliance, that, will not be inflexibly penalizing people for coming back online. Alderman Vaccaro.
two things. We're gonna hold these, but I do see an importance that we do something, and I think what we really had, when we put these together, it really said that somebody that is 6 months behind pays the same penalty as somebody who's 6 years behind. And it seems unfair that, you know, we're not making it a little bit more fair, telling people that, you know, because if I'm 6 months out, I'm gonna wait till they catch me in 4 years. There does need to be some, this might, you know, it didn't seem that harsh, but maybe it is. So we're gonna hold these in hopes to work with everybody to try to come up with a way that works, that we can get compliance, which is just so important. You know, there's just so many people doing work in the city of St. Louis that don't even bother to get a license. People come in, construction companies in particular come in, they're here for 1 or 2 weeks or from out of state, they don't pay earnings tax, they don't bother to get a license. And it has to do with trying to figure out how do we make this stuff work. So we're gonna hold these for right now.
And Alderman and Madam License Collector, I'm more than happy to sit down, kind of, you know, give my perspective from the small business that innocently, but we also have a broad array, and maybe we should check with the Collector of Revenue and your office and the Excise Commission. You know, most of our laws will then deny you your business license, which means we can close down your business. And maybe there is a combination of the three things to make sure people understand that if they're not in compliance, their business license will close and we will close their door, you know, after proper notice. But I think that, you know, we should work everybody together to come up with an effective process and assessment to actually accomplish what we really want, compliance. And I'm more than happy to come visit with you and go over the data and tell you what I've seen from the small businesses over the years. Madam?
Yeah, the thing is that I came in gung-ho, you know, with it was the first time that we had had a business closure policy ever. If we look back in the records, we haven't really closed any business. But my number one priority was to keep businesses open, not to shut them down. And so that's when we came up with the 30, 60, 90 days, and then after the 90 days, you would be summoned to come to court and figure it out that way, whether your business should be shuttered or not. But my number one priority was to keep businesses open. Now, the thing is that I'm understanding, you know, we have the information based on just the one category. And so that's what we proposed to you because we didn't have the resources to do that. However, I want to, before we leave, I want to make sure that I have all of the questions that I need to answer, and I can get that information to you guys as soon as I can. So one question was that in each category of licensing, you want to know how much is collected. Is that correct, Madam Alderperson?
You know, I think whatever is feasible for you to get. If I were looking at this, I would look at each category of license, how many licenses are issued. Of those licenses, how many are late. I would have an aging for, you know, how late are they, 60, 90, 10 years, you know, whatever. And then maybe a process for collection based on how late they are. So, I mean, I would just look at it analytically in terms of number of licenses, amount of licenses, how late they are, and try to figure out a strategy for doing that. So
Yes, ma'am.
I leave that up to you.
Yes, ma'am. What I tried to explain is that when you say number of licenses, we have the broad number, but then each of those is broken down into categories.
Yeah, I understand
And so
that.
of the categories, that's how we look at it. We
Right.
can't go over all 17,000 of them. It's just impossible for us to do.
I would think that the computer department could do a lot of analysis for you on this.
Yes,
That would
ma'am.
just be my
That's the way we
opinion.
got some of the data is from the IT department.
Gotcha.
Yes, ma'am. But again, our IT
Whatever you
in
think is
all of
appropriate.
City Hall, our IT in all of City Hall is not capable to come up with some of this data that we're asking. And so that's a whole nother story. But yes, we have worked with IT because our system downstairs does not do that. And IT has told us that they can't run certain reports. But I will get that information to you as soon as I can. So going down the categories, total number of license fees collected, Madam Alderwoman, I'll get you that in a few minutes when I go back downstairs. And why late? Don't know, but we can start that analysis. Who is late? That's going to be a longer bit of analysis. Again, working with IT like we have from the very beginning, we'll get you that information. And the amount of increased revenues from the late fees. And so we can get that information too. And so I just wanted to make sure those were all the questions that I had that I need to answer, and I will get you that answer.
Well, and then I think one thing that might be relevant, at least for us to kind of look at it, is it a business license with 5 or less employees versus more than 5, so that we can identify, you know, who is late, you know, either by, you know, or like a one-person company versus 5 versus more than 100. Are the large companies late, or is it the small people that are late? And that'll give us a lot greater comfort level in analyzing how do we rectify this, because that is important, especially the people that are paying their taxes and all of their taxes and filling out all the paperwork. We want them to assure that we have an effective mechanism that everybody is on the same footing.
No
I
problem.
appreciate you coming up today,
you.
and at the request of the alderman, we will hold these bills over. Board Bill number 268, Alderwoman Cruzen.
Anybody would like to speak on Board Bill 268?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Board Bill 268 is a lot of pages. I see the chairman thumbing through them there. But it's a pretty simple bill. In the Central West End North, we have a SID district. It was put in, it's a 1-cent sales tax. It was put in place about 5 years ago. At that time, there was a property at 5,000 Washington, which is the corner of Kings Highway and Washington, which was a church. It was not included in the district because, of course, the church doesn't pay sales tax. Now that property is the Link Auction Gallery, which is, they auction off fine art and antiques and all kinds of collectibles. And so now we'd like to include them in the SID district, and so their sales would also be subject to the 1% sales tax, and then they would receive the similar services that the other businesses in the area do. And that is really all this is. Once you establish a SID, there's a pretty healthy process that you have to go through to add a property, which entails notifying all of the existing property owners. David Richardson and Mark are here. How many, there were 200 and, how many owners are there in the district?
We had almost 200 notices go out.
Yeah, 200 notices, so we've done that. This is our official hearing to consider this, and I would appreciate it if you would vote to include this building, which of course we couldn't have anticipated back when it was a church, so.
Okay, I just have a couple of questions, Alderwoman. Now, what's the proposed plan for the church? I mean, the building itself? I'm sorry.
It's an auction gallery.
Auction gallery,
Yeah,
okay.
so they have antiques, antiques, dishes, artwork, all kinds of collectibles that if you're settling an estate maybe, or maybe you just want to get rid of it, rugs, that sort of thing, they take it from you and they auction it off. And they have auctions usually on Saturdays, and then they also have a really big online auction presence, which I guess is the way a lot of auctions are done these days. So they've repurposed the church which was the old St. John's United Methodist Church. It's actually a Theodore Link building. This is an aside and not important, but a very, prominent architect did the building. And so the auction gallery is called Link Auction Galleries, so.
It's a beautiful building. It's an excellent structure. I just have one more question. Because I got a lot of people asking me questions about that laundry mat that's right behind there. What happened with that? Do you have any idea? On Kings Highway in Delmar, right behind the structure you're talking about?
The former laundromat is 1 block north of this site. It's at the corner
Okay.
of Delmar and Kings Highway. This is Washington and Kings
Okay.
Highway. The laundromat went out of business maybe 5-6 years ago, and now it's a Quick Stop or Quick Mart, whatever.
Okay. All right, very good. We'll go down the road and we can ask some questions. All right. Alderman Conway? Okay. Alderman Vaccaro? Okay. Alderwoman Green? Okay. All right. So this is Board Bill.
268.
I'd like to ask for a motion to pass out Board Bill 268. Do pass recommendation. All right. Previous row?
There's not.
No row, okay. All right, we'll go through the roll call. Alderman,
Alderwoman Cruzen,
Aye.
Alderman Behringer, Vice Chairman Williamson,
aye.
Alderman Moore, Alderman French, Alderman Vaccaro, Alderman Carter, Alderwoman Green, Chairman Conway. Five aye votes, 0 no votes.
All right.
Thank you all.
268
Appreciate it.
pass, I would do recommendation. Thank you, Alderwoman.
Thank you.
Meeting adjourned.
Thank you.